I've been with Arcutis almost 9 years now. Was the number 3 employee, and we built it up from 3 people to 350 over the last 9 years.
It's a real success story, the dermatology biotech scene, isn't it?
It's been an amazing ride. Yeah. It's rare, I think, in biotech in general that it's rare for a biotech to make it all the way to FDA approval. They usually get bought, right?
Yeah.
We haven't been bought yet, and then we have 3 products now launched in a little over 3 years, which is very, very unusual in the biotech space.
So, what encouraged you to not get bought and to go it alone? Because I imagine there's a lot of interest,
right? One of my mentors always says that companies are bought; they're not sold, right?
Yeah.
You never want to have a strategy of being bought, because if someone doesn't buy you, you've got a problem.
Yeah.
But if no one shows up to buy you anyway. You have to be able to do it for the long haul. But honestly, our strategy from the outset has been to build a sustainable company. There was a lot of consolidation in dermatology over the last couple of decades, and there are really very, very few dermatology-focused companies anymore. And so when we founded the company, it was really designed to fill that void, to have a company that was really dedicated to dermatology, only did medical dermatology, and to reinvigorate some of the innovation that had really fallen by the wayside in dermatology. And, we would be perfectly happy to stay an independent company as long as possible.
If you've got a good team, good people, it's enjoyable.
Great team, great people. Yeah.
Do you think your commercial background gave you, and your blended leadership roles in different regions has given you a more worldly experience or given you any edge?
I think I wouldn't say just my commercial experience. I think, my broad experience, when I was a country manager, I had medical, regulatory, legal, HR, finance, and commercial under me. Product development, I had to work with all of the various functions. So I understand a little bit of everything. I am the first person to admit that I am not the expert at the company on anything, which is as it should be, right?
Sign of a good CEO, isn't it?
You surround yourself with really good, smart people who know more than you do. But I think it does help that I understand all the facets of the business,
To an extent, I suppose, and then you can build it together.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, enough to ask the hard questions. I think a good example that just recently, we launched our product about 2.5 years ago, right? And we've established the product in the marketplace. We're a leader in our segment now, but there's this much, much larger market out there that we hadn't focused on yet. And so late last year, I pulled the team together and I said, listen, guys, we need to pivot, right? We've already won the battle against our competition, but there's this huge opportunity out here that we need to figure out how to get after it. So you guys need to go out and figure that out. And then that was it, right? That was the extent of the guidance.
Yeah.
And they're continuing to work through it, but they've already, just in the last 6 months, have made amazing progress in coming up with really innovative ideas and solutions about how we're going to attack that broader market and continue our growth forward.
Is that tackling more indications within dermatology, rare diseases? Or?
Really, it's driving the conversion from really old, outdated therapies to these newer class of drugs. Right. We're in the dermatology space, and the standard of care for most patients has been historically topical steroids, which, are very effective drugs, but they have a lot of safety issues. Mm-hmm. But, dermatologists for many years, that was the only option they had. Mm-hmm. Right. And so that's what they used. Well, now it's not the only option anymore. But they still today are about 16 times more likely to be prescribed than the newer agents. We need to change that, right? And so my challenge to the team was, how do we drive conversion from steroids to these newer, safer drugs? Figure it out, right?
And that's like a behavioral, instinctive thing, I suppose.
It's a habit. Yeah, I think, the dermatologists have been using topical steroids since, their first day in residency. They know there are issues with it, but, they're just used to doing it. And, I worked in the antidepressant market when the SSRIs were replacing TCAs.
Yeah.
Very similar kind of pattern. I worked on antipsychotics when the atypical antipsychotics were replacing neuroleptics. The migraine drug I worked on is now in the process of replacing the old triptans. There's a certain therapeutic inertia in medicine. It takes a while for doctors to change over to the newer class of drugs, but it eventually happens.
It's amazing, really, isn't it? And why do you think Arcutis has been so successful and really been a commercial
gosh, I think there are a number of factors that have contributed to our success. I think first and foremost, we have a really great drug, right?
Yeah.
And there's a huge element of luck in that, like my last company proves, right? It was a great idea. We thought it was going to be terrific, and then the drug didn't work.
Yeah,
well, that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
I think we really hit on a jackpot with our product. It's very effective, very well tolerated. And it fits a real unmet need in medicine. So I think that's the starting point. But I think in addition to that, one of the keys to our success from the outset has been building a phenomenal team. And in particular, we have brought into the organization a number of clinicians who work in dermatology. So not just commercial people or business people making decisions, but people who actually treat the patients that we're trying to help. So at Arcutis, out of 100 or 350 people, we have 7 dermatology clinicians at the company. And a number of them still practice medicine, see patients 1 day a week. And I really encourage that because they bring insights back to us about what their colleagues are struggling with, right?
It's a really interesting insight, that, just to interject, because I get varying views on that, being in the talent side. Mm-hmm. So I know I can think of several physicians who are practicing dermatologists that when working with them on new opportunities, the role they picked was because they were unable and actually able to continue in the clinic, and because of that feedback loop that you talked about. And I think and I think if you're going to a KOL or something and you could talk about what the NHS is like, or whatever healthcare system's like, you've got that real-time information, and it's an engagement tool, isn't it, with those people?
And it cuts both ways. I think it gives our clinicians credibility with their colleagues because they're in the trenches with them.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not very common. So it's a little surprising when my chief medical officer says, I see patients 1 day a week, and doctors are like, wow, really?
Yeah.
You used to. Yeah. And on the other hand, we are bringing these insights back real time every week to our practice. And it's different than doing market research, right? Because these are clinicians who are in the trenches doing it every day, and they can come back and say, look, this is how it works in the real world, right? This is a real problem, or that's not really a problem. Then I think the third thing is, and I think this is critical for any leader, I believe that culture is really critical, right? There's an old aphorism that culture eats strategy for lunch. I think that's very true. And we have been very, very deliberate about building a certain culture at Arcutis. Empowerment is a big part of that. Driving decision-making out to information, not concentrating it all up at the top of the organization. But there are a number of facets to our culture which I think have been really critical to our success. And having the right kind of culture is what is vital, as you know, from your business, in recruiting the best people, in retaining the best people, and in motivating the best people. And that's what really allows you to be successful in the end.
So what's next for Arcutis then?
So we have 3 products now approved by the FDA on the market. Thank you very much. And 2 approved in Canada. We're expecting a 3rd in Canada very soon. We have an upcoming approval date in the United States for a 4th, and then a 5th product a little bit later this year. And then we have a pipeline of follow-on innovative assets that we're also developing. And we're always looking for new and interesting assets that we can add to our portfolio of products. And there are a lot of unmet needs in dermatology, medical dermatology specifically. Innovation has picked up in the last number of years, but it for a long time it was a neglected therapeutic area.
Yeah, it's amazing that, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been a real change.
But it's definitely a massive area right now in terms of
really is.
Growth.
Yeah, and so there are a lot of people who still need better options, and that's why we exist, is to find those options for them.
So do you have your own proprietary platform as well, where you develop molecules through your own?
We don't do discovery at Arcutis. We only do development. Having come from Lilly and Amgen, there's a lot of risk in the discovery side of things, and you can burn through a lot of money fast. And there are a lot of other companies that do it well, and so we have just relied on other companies to do the discovery piece, and then we acquire the asset and then develop it.
And do you acquire them? Is there like a formula? Do you acquire them at late preclinical or phase 1? Or?
The products that we have thus far Most of them, we acquired an active ingredient, and then we developed a topical drug to deliver it, right? And that's one of the benefits of dermatology is you can do most things through the skin instead of through the mouth or an injection. We do have an injectable product. We actually bought a company from Cambridge, a very innovative little protein engineering company that had a drug that we thought was fantastic, and so we bought them and incorporated them into the company. So we've had to do some development work on that as well on the front end, making sure the formulation was right and it was stable and so forth. And then we do all the clinical development, the regulatory work, the manufacturing work, and now we have a commercial organization to commercialize our products as well.
It's exciting.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. Yeah.